the car museums because our cars are still driven at many events, and not just a few, but almost 80% of the whole collection. So that is a lot of the cars. And when you're very interested in the 917, we have one standing over there, the white with Martini Racing Team on the wings.
Right, the shell.
Can you see it?
Right.
Yes.
Number
with the number
22.
22.
22번이라고 써있는 게 그게 9.
Yeah, 917.
It's a very special one. This is the winner of the 24-hour race of Le Mans from 1971.
1971년 르망 24시 우승 차량이래요.
And it won the race very unexpectedly because it has a very dangerous construction, and that is why this is one of the few cars that they don't drive anymore because it is so difficult to maintain. It has a very lightweight chassis in the car, and it holds the fiberglass plastic body. It's the tubular frame with all the tubes that are welded together. And normally the tubular frame would be made already with a very lightweight metal, aluminum or aluminium. And for that case it was an experiment. This one car got the super lightweight frame made with magnesium. And all the tests were not so good because the magnesium frame, it broke. And it's very hard to weld together because magnesium starts to burn very quickly. It's dangerous. They use it for fireworks, the powder of magnesium. So they thought, let's send this one in the race. It's an experiment, but probably it will not hold any longer than maybe 1 hour or 2 hours. And they did not tell the race drivers that they were driving with a very dangerous lightweight frame. So they were driving very fast with the car, and it was magic. The car held and the frame did not break. And in the end, it was the fastest and the one that held through, and it won the 24-hour race of Le Mans. And it was a total surprise because the engineers that were on the team, they were the youngest engineers because they thought they would never make it. And also the race drivers, they were not so experienced. It was Helmut Marko, who is now head of the Red Bull team of Formula 1, and Gijs van Lennep, who is my fellow countryman from the Netherlands. And he now still comes to the museum very often to do special events, and he often sits in the car for pictures, but he cannot drive it because it's too dangerous to drive. The museum is not so big, but Porsche is also not such a big brand. We finish about 120 cars a day here in Zuffenhausen. Of course, there's a second plant also in Leipzig, where we build a lot more cars because the Cayenne, the Panamera, Macan, they are the biggest sellers. About 2 years ago, in the main city where also Ferdinand Porsche started his career, which is the main city of Austria, Vienna. And it was in the technical museum there because after he did prototypes, the controller he used for another car.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not anymore on there. Or somebody stole it maybe at one time, who knows. The thing that is logic that it is missing is the battery. Because even then they already had batteries. It just took a week to charge it. Electric power, but the spools are now directly on the hub of the wheel. And when you put copper wire inside the wheel and this starts to push away with that, you can imagine that the wheel starts to turn. So this is a very interesting system. Later on they also used it for the moon rover, which is the vehicle that drove on the moon. Yeah, so they used with panels, the solar energy, and then they would have wheel hub engines on the moon rover. And first he started out at the little company of Daimler in Austria called Austro Daimler. And that company also did airplane engines, so this was also built by Mr. Porsche because he was a big fan of the first airplanes too.
Wow.
Looks very cute.
Yeah.
But it was very fast for the time. It was 1912, and the car had a speed of 55 kilometers per hour. But you have to imagine there were only people walking on a bicycle, or maybe the first automobiles, but there's almost no automobiles on the street. And it was actually used actively. They had the money and the time to do racing, and they were bored mostly because they were not allowed to do a lot of things. So the main hobby usually for people that were of royalty was racing. And Count Sasha Kolowrat, he said to Mr. Porsche, I would like to have a race car. And he wanted to join the most dangerous race that also had good prize money back then, which was the Italian race Targa Florio, which is very famous for Porsche too, because later on they beat Ferrari with more victories. And it started out the first time that Mr. Porsche built a car for that race in 1922. All around the car, and they would move with the wind.
I heard it.
Yes,
Yeah.
so they make pictures and look where the little threads are moving, and that was a sign to know that the wind was very strong around one point of the car, going faster than the other side of the car, or maybe when they were going like this, he knew, that is too much. Circles of the wind, so we need to change the shape to make them more straight lined, and that is how they came up with this very aerodynamic shape. It's even better than the 911. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it doesn't have so many things on it yet, right? It's a very simple car, but already the shape of the Porsche is in it. But it shares the route also with the biggest project of Porsche's career. Before the cars of Porsche were born, so to say, this was his biggest success, his dream to make a car that everybody could afford to buy, which was the car of the people in Germany, the Volkswagen. Father of the Volkswagen company building this car. And on the left, wartime, they had their own design office still, and they had to make money. And a race car costs a lot of money to build, and it gives to Ferry Porsche. He is the second in line. He is the son of Ferdinand. He takes over the company, and he builds this car. And it reminds us a lot of the Mercedes Silberpfeile, the silver arrows. He uses a lot of new technology too, and it's very fast. The year was 1947. His dream to make a car in a time that it was not practical at all to build such an expensive, fun car. No real practical use. You can drive the Porsche to your work every day. This is how also the sports car is sold, but it was to have fun. After the war, everybody was depressed, and but of course also money was low. And he came up with a car that he said, I think people want to enjoy life. And I have this in my head. When I think about having fun, I want a car that is lightweight, I can go fast, and from the old racing times, I want to take turns. Because the city of Stuttgart, where they were in the 30s, had become very dangerous during the wartime, and they had moved the design office to Austria. So he designed a car especially for driving in the mountains. That is why it has a mid-engine, and all the weight is in the middle of the car, so you can take turns, and he loved to take this through the mountains.
This guy is a very fast.
Well, it's not so fast. 135 kilometers per hour, but that is because it has only a weak engine. It is the engine of the Beetle, of the Volkswagen, with an extra carburetor. It has two carburetors, so it can mix more gasoline with air. But in the end, it's still the 4 flat of the Volkswagen.
Yeah.
So it's not so powerful.
Also still working.
Yes, still working. Yeah, but we don't lend it out too much because we are afraid that it will damage the car. It is too precious for us. Here on the touchscreen, you can see the old pictures too. We have here a very famous picture. This is this one, the prototype, you can say.
Yeah.
And later on, he put the roof on the car, and he copied the race beetle a lot for it. And so you see the later 356, and this is the number 1, the very first one. So you cannot press it, you have to hammer it. And actually start with quite a thick piece, and then it becomes thinner, 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 until it is also very lightweight. And because the aluminum is lightweight, magnesium is too dangerous, they started to understand. The very first race cars were also made with aluminum. And Ferry, he contacted the Swiss, but he also understood that commercials were very expensive. And there's another way to make a sports car famous, and that is to join races. It costs money, so they called it the aluminum can. And they did not use normal glass, it was extra lightweight, so they called it SL, super lightweight. This is all plexiglass, here the windows.
Lightweight.
All plexiglass. And to make it more aerodynamic, they covered the wheel house.
How much lighter than than normal?
This only weighs about 550 kilos. And the normal one would weigh, I don't know, close to maybe 1,100, 1,200 kilos.
Wow, much lighter.
Yeah, so like the half of the normal car. The car was not so strong, but because it was lightweight, it won in the smaller class, onto 1.1 liter class. But for Porsche, this was a very big victory, because they were only 3 years old as a car company, and it was a big surprise that such a young brand would win in a class even. So, and the amazing thing was, it was only this car in the race. So it was very good that it held through the 24 hours and then even finished the first of the class, which was very good. Maybe Porsche was young, building very expensive sports cars. And in Germany the market was not so big. So you can sell only so many expensive cars, but there are a lot of farmers in Germany too and in Austria. So Porsche said, let's make tractors, because then we can sell a lot and make good money. And it was a very reliable tractor. This was built in 1959, I think, and they still run. Not just this one, but most of these tractors are saved and they are still. He told him, Ferry, make this logo, because then everybody will recognize the car, even though they don't know the name. Because Porsche is not such an easy name to remember for Americans. Like Porsche, what's that? So the logo was much more easy, the symbol. And the symbol was a sort of new invention of things that he combined. You can see here, maybe it's a bit little, but this is like, we call it coat of arms. All the kings in Germany, they had their own shield. And this shield is from the king of the area we are in right now, which is called Württemberg. And Württemberg king had this crest. The horse inside is the city logo of Stuttgart. Stuttgart was the old horses' stables of the king, originally called Stuten Garden. Stuten Garden, which means horse garden. Therefore, always Stuttgart, the city, had the jumping horse as the logo. And Ferrari, they took the horse on a lot later. So this is more German than people think. They think we got the same horse as Ferrari. It has a difficult story, but the horse of Stuttgart is this car. It was very much like a little monster. He also called it Little Bastard because it is so Spartanic. There is nothing that you do not need in the car. Again, super lightweight car made with aluminum, and it had a more powerful engine than the normal one. The first official race engine of Porsche that we call Carrera engine. Carrera means race in Spanish, so that's where the word Carrera actually comes from. And the 550 Spider in 1956 won the first overall victory of the Targa Florio. And later on it went to win many more little races. Not Le Mans, it was not strong enough to win Le Mans, but the smaller races. And it's very famous now, especially because James Dean bought it and had his deadly accident in it. So it made news lines all over the US that a Porsche was the car that he died in. And it actually made a lot of free marketing for the brand. Yeah, it was very strange.
Yeah,
But
James Dean made the Porsche popular.
yes, because he died in the car, which is not so good. It would maybe have been more normal if he would won the race in the Porsche, but his death was even more shocking. So the news was very big, and so it made Porsche very famous in America. And after that, the most cars of Porsche did not go to Europe, they went to America. And for a long time, the United States of America was the biggest market for Porsche. And it still has by far the biggest Porsche Club of America, PCA.
PCA.
Yes, very big. And they just had 2 groups here in the museum this morning. Slate gray for the stone. It's very beautiful and maybe interesting for you. If you know this very old movie that Steve McQueen made about the 24 hours of Le Mans, it is called Le Mans, from 1973 I think it is. In the first scenes you see him driving almost exactly the same car. It has the same color. So for Steve McQueen, it's older. The first one was on the show in Frankfurt in 1963. But the designer, who is also a Porsche, FA Porsche he's the oldest son of Ferry, he was a fan of making design simple and clean. So it does look luxurious. It has wooden paneling, but it is still simple and elegant. Not too many buttons or things you do not use.
This car was still leather smell.
Yes,
Wow,
we take care of the leather very well. We oil it and therefore it smells nice, right? I like it too.
와, 가죽 냄새가 아직도 나요.
그게 아니라
네.
컬러가 너무 예쁘잖아요?
아 컬러가? 아니 난 냄새가
컬러가 너무 예뻐, 이거랑 이거랑.
아니 난 냄새가 와 신기하네. 와.
Right side, which is normal with most cars. And that is because the most simple explanation, because of racing. Because if you have to be in the car and you start it, it's more quick that you have both your hands on the key and on the shift stick. So you can start like this, of course, with your foot on the clutch. And then you do this and you're faster. Displacement, big engine,
Yeah.
12-cylinder. And this is the car you're talking about, 917. Downstairs we saw a white one from this same year, 1971. But it looks totally different. It has the same engine, but the other one had the magnesium frame. This has aluminum frame. The other one is short and pretty small. It was like the little car who won the race. They thought this big car could win it. It was the widest shape of all, and they tried because they thought maybe the shape is so good with the wind, it will make the car very fast. In the end, it was not so good. And before the race started, the car was already very famous. Because it was so big, they called it the Fat Pig. Yeah, so it was a bit of a strange nickname, and because it was called Pig, it also got the paint job of a pig. Turbocharged, and it has also a very big spoiler in the front and in the back. And Porsche was the first one who got a spoiler car street legal. This looks a little bit funny because it was also, you could say, like a prototype. And there are some special things on the car because it was given for a birthday to the older sister of Ferry Porsche. She is called Louise, but she's a version has only one seat, a fire extinguisher inside the car, and it uses even more extreme lightweight material. So this I must do very careful, but the front here is made with very thin metal.
Oh.
So I can press it. Yeah. So it was thin, so it would be lightweight, of course, but also if the wind goes over the car, it sort of presses the front a little bit down, and you get a little dent. And this is good for the aerodynamic, because then, because of the dent, the air will press the car down, so it won't go up, which is the problem with when you go very fast. These are the newer version of the leather little straps. Remember? This is now used to fix them.
Yeah.
They ask if Porsche could come up with an engine that does not have so much emissions, so they can still sell the Harley Davidson in California. So they make a water-cooled engine. The water cools the engine better, and so the emission, the combustion is better and the emission is lower. So they made this together with Harley, the Revolution motorbike. But in the end, the California people, they were not such a big fan, because the water-cooled engine is difficult to repair. And always the people that like Harley Davidson, they are the people that like to work on the engine themselves. See, the year 1994, they wrote out a contest for all companies in the world, for the car companies, to present an idea for a German people's car, like the Volkswagen for Germany in the beginning. This is how it started. A company that was founded by the government. And so Porsche said, maybe we can make them the best one. And they put this prototype together. It's not really something you can drive. It's like a plastic and clay car.
피아트 같은데요.
But they asked many Chinese people that live here what the people would like. And they said, design is also very important. Maybe not the outside, but when the Chinese people are driving the car, they want to feel at home. And a round shape is very much something that they like. So actually, I always cannot tell this, but in a few weeks we're gonna have the special exhibition for the 959. But it will continue until 10th of January next year. So maybe you have the chance to come back, and then you can see the special exhibition about the 959. Because
only for 959.
Yes.
Wow.
In the middle of the museum, there's gonna be special versions too. We're gonna have the Group B, the very first prototype.
Next year.
Sorry?
Next
No,
year.
this year.
This year.
Yes, starting in a few weeks, 30th of September, going through the winter until 10th of January. Yes. So maybe you can come back. This was something that started out as a street version of a race car. But in the end, very strangely enough, the race car was not used so many times because the group for
B.
racing Group B was cancelled because so many accidents happened with these cars. But Porsche already invested so much in 964, and it carried a lot of the technology that the 959 had. So they invested so much money in that car, but they got it back a little bit because they use many of the new things on the new 911. Like anti-braking system, ABS. It had for the first time four-wheel drive too. It had the controlled turbo now with the variable turbine, and it's made for Audi.
Yeah.
But in the 70s, because the oil crisis broke out, Audi didn't want to have the car. And Porsche got the construction back, and they decided to build it themselves. It started out being called 924, then the next generation was called 944, and the last one was 968. Don't ask me about why these numbers. I don't understand. These 968s were not built for a long time, and there are not so many of them. Porsche.
와.
Now in this year they also already had the new class, LMP1.
Yeah.
So there were two different types of Porsche in the race. You had, well, even more, you had the normal GT3s. Then you had LMP1, two of them, and two were still in the old GT1 class with the coupe. And the LMP1s were Spiders, but they didn't have so much luck. The Spiders, they never made the finish line.
Yeah.
And two of the GT1s, they won the race, a double victory in 1998, which for a very long time was the last time that Porsche won the 24-hour race. But I'm happy to tell you, you probably know, this year we won again and we beat Audi. It was hard, but we did it.
Yeah.
And again, a double victory. So very, very happy.
Good.
And now I can tell that we are on top again. And of course, that is also a carbon fiber car. But now there are many new rules. It's a town very close to Stuttgart called Böblingen, double B. They have this B.
BB means the city.
Böblingen. Yeah,
City.
it's like the city. Yeah, the short version for the city. And yeah, so they had to build this to be allowed to do the race with the GT1 class. They asked for one homologation. So it's very rough to do rally racing, but it was the excellent way to test the Cayenne because it's of course a SUV that is supposed to be able to drive also on rough terrain. So what better test to do than a rally like this? And it won the first 6 places. So it was a very good test.
이거 생각보다 싸네. 네, 45유로.